I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Park and Rec Commission. I'd like to do a roll call on attendance so we know who's present and accounted for. Mr. Norton,
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Bannon.
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons.
Here.
Miss Andujar. Here. Mr. Chamberlain.
Here.
Mr. Meyer.
Here.
Miss Smith. Okay, Carolyn, you know who's here. Okay. Okay. I would like to know if there are any corrections, deletions, or additions to the minutes of the November 14th meeting.
I move to acceptance. Second.
I will roll call that vote. Hold on, I think somebody needs a packet.
Thank you.
I thought you'd tell me that. Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Gibbons?
Yes.
Mr. Bannon?
Yes.
Mr. Norton?
Yes.
Miss Andujar?
Yes.
Mr. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. I don't know where is Vicky Ehrlich and Miss Siegel is now here. Hello, I know you're in the car. I can tell by the whatever. The woman who submitted a parks usage request, Soul Reflections Wellness, to do forest therapy walks is not here. So not that I'm aware of. Vicky, are you anywhere to be found? Okay, so we're not going to deal with that because she's not here. Berkshire Pulse, Benjamin Court. He needs to be promoted.
Okay. You got it? Yeah.
Yes, can you hear me?
Court,
Yes.
you'd like to chat with the Parks Commission on what, may I ask?
We have a program at the Housatonic Community Center currently that just completed this fall, and we want to renew it for the spring. Just a couple minor changes in the time. Basically, we actually want fewer hours, just to accommodate what the students wanted. So we're looking at every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. at the Hoosie Dome.
I would like you to run that earlier. Mr. Chamberlain, what time does basketball start? Do they
I'll
start
have
at
to-
6 or 6:30 or what?
Usually 6.
Mr. Court, there seems to be a problem. Can you start at 4:45 and go to 5:45 or whatever, just so you're out of there by 6?
Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I'll have to confirm with our teachers, but I think that shouldn't be a problem. 4:45 to 5:45.
Right. The other thing, I heard a comment today from some people who were wondering, what is the bottom age on the boxing program? What's the youngest you'll take?
We say 8th grade, so the youngest we'll take is 12.
Is there any consideration of doing it with younger kids? I'm not saying you have to. I just have had some parents say, God, I would love to get my kids involved in that, who are younger than 8th grade. Hello. Ben? Oh, Mother Cabrini. Ben Court, are you there? I want my mommy. Ben Court, attention, this is for you. Any thoughts?
Hi, yes.
Mr. Ben?
Whoops.
Are you back?
Sorry, are you able to hear me now?
I'm trying to
Yes.
talk to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my apologies. Technical issue there.
Oh, welcome to our world. So has there been any consideration doing it with younger kids?
Yes, as it stands, if younger kids want to try it out, they're able to with the approval of the instructor. I think we just set a bottom age at 12, given the kinds of safety concerns of the exercises they're running. But
You're dropping out, Ben.
Going splendid so far.
Yeah, this is just making my week. Ben, are you there?
yeah, sorry.
Ben? Ben?
Can we just make a motion to approve this and?
All right, let's make a motion to approve it. And Ben, I want you to get in touch with me in reference to the younger kids and when that could happen.
Yes,
Over.
will do. I just heard,
Yeah,
I just heard the last bit here about the younger kids, and I will follow up with an email.
follow up with me, please. Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I made a motion to approve.
Yes,
So Ben in motion, Norton seconded. Sir Debbie is now here, Carolyn, just so you know. And I will call the roll. Sir Debbie,
What are we voting on?
just say yeah, no. just-
Berkshire Pulse.
Berkshire Pulse renewing their
Extended.
boxing in the spring.
Okay, yeah.
Mr. Norton.
Yes.
Mr. Bannon.
Yes.
Mr. Gibbon. Mr. Meyer.
Yep.
Ms. Andujar.
Yes.
Chamberlain. Terry. Holy
Maybe it's just
Maloney.
coughing, which we're fine. We have enough to vote.
Okay, Karen, yes, that's it. Chamberlain abstained because he's not on the phone. Okay, great. All right, great. So. Parks Care and Maintenance, Memorial Field update, Mr. Aberdale.
The plans are in the final stages. We were intended to go out to bid over the winter, but we had discussions with the baseball league and they determined that the best time to interrupt the field was September, October, November. So there's really no rush to go out to bid for it.
Okay, one question follow-up. One of the things that was indicated by Mr. Ingersoll, if we go out to bid that late, are we correct in our assumption that the field will be sodded?
I haven't had a follow-up conversation with that, but I recall the plan was to sod the infield.
Okay,
But I haven't had a follow-up discussion with Foresight. But the kicker to this was Paul wanted to be around for this, so I planned on doing it right in the spring. So if you ever hang on a little longer.
All right. Whatever. I just want to see it done.
so noted. Tie and bond design of.
Something happened.
What do you mean?
Terry's
I
back.
got no
There
voice.
he is.
Yeah, we can hear you, Terry.
Now we got you.
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Tie and bond design of Grove Street Park and Dewey Park. I believe that this body needs to do, what we need is a number of money. And what we need to do is set up public input for what people want to see at Grove and Dewey. Am I correct? Is that your understanding, Mr. Aberdeen?
On Dewey for sure. On Grove Street, I think one of the tasks that we were working on was investigate resurfacing the pickleball.
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with the equipment.
Right, so yes.
Okay, so I turn to you people as a board. I'm out of the country from the 30th of January to the 10th of March. When do you want to do these public inputs? And the thing is, Joe, we need a number so we can give some sort of budget parameters to the humanoids that are going to come in here and say, I want.
Well, we know what we have in our capital. It's how much we spend on the park. Plus, we would have to know
Thank you.
equipment in the park, if any of it has to be removed and replaced, or we're adding to it.
Mr. Aberdale, can your crew look at Grove Street and see what needs to be tossed?
For for safety issues and.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Safety issues or just repair issues that beyond.
Yeah,
Life
we look at the
expectancy.
repair and the safety, we'll have to figure out how to determine that.
I would like to not have this wait till July of this next year, if we could possibly do it. Mr. Gibbons.
I would suspect that the majority of that playground equipment is gonna have to be tossed. Because it's been so long since we have done anything with that kind of equipment in that park. I mean, it wasn't good years ago, and I suspect that now. I mean, it's probably, I haven't been over there in a while, but I suspect that it's probably pretty much done for. But what I would like to have, before we even set any kind of a budget, I'd like to hear from the residents of anybody, because it's obviously not just the neighbors over there. From anybody come in and tell us what they think they want. And then we can look at and prioritize depending upon the funds that we have, rather than doing it. This is what we got, now try to fit that within that. I'd rather have them tell, and then we can make some informed decisions as to how much we want to do, how much we can do.
Well, let me give you a point of reference. We just put in 4 elements at Lake Mansfield, and that was $40,000.
I know
So I think it's important that we may not have a number, but we certainly have to have a parameter, an upside to it, saying we're not spending $160,000 on Grove Street. You know what I'm
that.
saying?
Oh, I know.
So I think that we need to come up with some sort of, if we know that we need some sort of swing and some sort of balance, or they've got all these subcategories, so that may be helpful, that we can help guide the choices. Like, I remember the last time we did it at the skate park, everybody got 3 blue dots, and when they came in and we had all the elements, and they went and they said, we like this. And they could put their dots wherever we want, so we had some idea of what people thought was a good idea.
We could also do a 2 or 3 year plan.
Yep,
And so say, okay, we're gonna do swings and slides the first year. Second year, we're gonna do this, the third year, because we typically get between 45 and 50,000 in capital each year, and if it would make sense to do a plan.
however, there are a lot of other things that need to come out of the parks budget. For instance, capital infrastructure needs. We've got Old Maids, Olympian Meadows, various trees, just so everybody has a general idea.
This old maids, what are we talking about there, since we voted to close it years ago?
Well, there seems to be interest to open it, so I'm just saying, whatever. Trees alone. In 2020, 152 trees came down. In 2021, 30 trees came down. In 2022, 47 trees came down. We put in 9. So trees are definitely going to be an issue.
I'm sorry, where was that, the trees came, where was, I didn't understand what you did, where did that report come from? Those are,
2 sources, ones that we took down as a town,
right,
and then what National Grid. took
National
down.
Grid took down, so
Right.
these are.
Aggregate.
Trees on public property.
Correct.
Not necessarily parks property though.
No,
Public property, streets and stuff like that.
Right,
it's everything, but it just gives you an idea that we've dumped out
so National Grid-
220 trees and we put in 9.
They do, and they do, it seems like they come in for a year and then they're gone for a couple of years.
Mhm.
It's what it appeared, but the numbers were quite shocking.
Yeah,
So, that we're trying to lay out the wish list for the budgets, and I think that's what Karen's reading from, that kind of put a.
Right, I'm just trying to give you an,
right, okay.
okay, benches, okay, I will tell you today, we haven't found the check yet, it's around here somewhere. The Weber family has donated 2 benches to be put in at Lake Mansfield Playground. So that's a number. We also have to identify, Joe's got in the budget for next year, $8,000 for benches, which gives us what? 10
Close to time.
10 benches, 10
Just 3
benches.
Unless we're picnic tables or more.
All right, so that's something that we have to come up with, is where we want to put them.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm not saying tonight's the night. I'm just saying these are some of the things that we may need to consider. I know that we are strongly looking at resurfacing the Grove Street basketball court into pickleball courts. Because the bottom is in good shape and we don't have any outdoor pickleball courts that are public. And I'll follow up on what I'm gonna say later about what's going on at the Hoosie Dome, but those are some of the things other than capital. Also, what are we gonna do at Dewey? What should be there? So I'm trying to come up, I would like this committee to come up with a plan about how we're gonna ask and get some input from the persons who will use it.
And at Dewey, it's important we get the neighbors, because the last time we did, they wanted mostly open space.
Right.
And if that's what they want, then terrific, we have it.
However,
We also have the survey that was just done that talked about open space and benches, those were like up on the top of the list.
Yeah,
so that's all that needs, so we need to drill down on all that information. Terry, did you want to say something?
No,
So we need to drill down on all that information. We need to compile it. Okay, so I'm asking this committee to, what are we gonna do?
set up neighborhood meetings in March, and you're back.
Well, April, March might be a little.
No, set up the neighborhood meetings in March. Otherwise, we'll be in friggin' December of next year before anything gets done.
I like the idea of a 2 to 3 year plan and stretch that out and start. First, really, we got to get that equipment out of there because some of that stuff is downright dangerous. So clean that area out and then talk to people in March, start with an initial swing set or multiple swing set, a category,
A base,
a base.
Yeah, yeah.
This is what's coming and then from there, just keep building on that. And just say that we're gonna give this much capital per year to this project.
It avoids us saying no to neighborhoods where we can say, yes, but it's gonna be year 2 or year 3.
we're gonna phase it.
Yeah, we're gonna base it, and everyone seems happy with that.
And that gives us an opportunity to do that all over. I mean, phases all over Dewey Park and Old Maids. I mean, looking at that way, then we are moving in a positive direction and people can see that things are happening.
We-
I don't- Go ahead, Steve.
We actually have a 5-year capital plan, which is very general. So all we would have to do, instead of saying 30,000 in year 2 on swings or on playground equipment, we could say in year 2, this is where that equipment is going.
Yeah.
So it's just expanding
Well,
itself.
it
on the
needs to be
spreadsheet.
focused, and that's what we just can't sit here and chat about it. We need to do something.
I think that's the document that you might be preparing that I signed.
Right, it's called,
It's a 5-year plan that I penciled in a few other things on.
Yeah,
I can circle that to the commission if you want. and
I think that's a good idea. And I can't show it, but it's like Old Maids, to get that up to snuff would be $350,000. I don't know if this committee is ready to do that.
Well, I think what you see with the numbers there is, before we just jump in and do any improvement or construction, we need to do some type of feasibility study, engineering, permitting. So the first year, I think maybe next year, it's like, just say, do we want to put 50 grand in there to do that and come up with a plan for the next year, or following years to do some work, You're just looking to make that a swimming hole and put a dam in there. It's pretty serious work.
yeah, I'm not,
Yeah,
but.
I'm not sure I want to do that.
What you would do with that is keep that away from our capital, keep that away from our operating, and do that as a special warrant article. Let the town meeting voters decide if you're gonna ask for that kind of money.
Also CPA.
CPA is the other one, yes, you're correct.
I think it would be all right it's a good idea to get community input. I mean, we know we've had it for Dewey. And we've had it for Grove Street at varying times. And maybe a good way to get and we did a few years back for the Housatonic Village. There was quite a lot of community input for all
Oh, yeah.
those. And maybe, there's enough of us here that we can focus on, like, I'd be more than happy to focus on Old Maids, for instance, as just
Not first. What I,
just to consider things with, like what Joe sees, to get ideas, brainstorm a little bit.
Well, the first thing we need to do is find out there's interest in Old Maids, but
Yeah.
don't forget we closed it because there was no interest.
Right, but he didn't really close it. What he did was he closed the activities to it that were,
no, We closed anybody because we didn't have anybody show up for like 3.5 years.
Right, but it's still an open space that.
We
people
could
go to.
still maximize the open space potential of it.
Right,
Absolutely,
That's
whether
what
we're
I'm
gonna
saying.
put a dam or whatever. What I would like to do, if this group could commit to setting up community input at Dewey and at Grove Street. Okay?
Yep.
But we need to plan that in the sense of what are we asking them to look at, or what they want, or how do we want to do that? There's got to be some sort of format about, it just can't be a free fall. I want swings, I want the,
Well, is there like you were saying that there's categories, is there somewhere where those categories?
if you go to Compan Victoria, or anything, you'll see the way the catalogs are broken down. That's how I ended up with Chris picking the items for Lake Mansfield.
I think like something like that might make it.
Right,
easier
I
for
need
everybody.
somebody else to spearhead that. I am out of the country and I need somebody else to do that on this committee.
I can do it.
That agree. Thanks, Sir Dan.
I think
But
there's,
do we invite, I just don't know how you go about doing that. Do they all come to the park and we?
No, what we do is we happen to have in our room tonight, two gentlemen who can assist that facilitation. One of them being older and one of them being younger. And I believe that the smart thing to do is that we get you those catalogs and you look at, Chris Rembold has those things, to see if you can break it up and work with Steve and with Joe and set up in March. We could do, the format can be the same for Dewey and for Grove. It can be the same format, just different people. And we open it up as a public input. And that's what I would suggest. You could do that and work with Joe. And then Joe, I'm sure is going to pass this off to Steve. I don't know why I know that.
He always does.
That's right. And set that up for anything after March 10th. Because I don't land until March 10th. So I'd like a day before I have to jump into this nightmare.
but I think there's two parts of this. We're all looking at toys and Camp On, or whatever that company is. But I think we also have to ask people the operational goals for the park. For instance, Dewey, we can show all the we want, but if people don't want those there, that's a
Ducky.
waste of our time.
Ducky,
They
that's
may
fine.
want grills, benches, and soccer nets.
That may be absolutely what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be a toy, but what is your dream,
Exactly.
what are your dream for these spaces?
And I think it's important, Sir Debbie, that we couch that as realistic dreams, because we did this at Grove Street a while ago. And there's room for 5 cars there. And we had Disney World being set up, with bocce ball courts and everything else.
Right.
And that just wasn't realistic. I appreciate all that. That would have been wonderful, but the park is not 10 acres.
No, I think if we can get a few items in there and maybe get the pickleball courts set up, and that would be year 1, and then we do something at Dewey and say, okay, well, maybe we want to put a grill there. Maybe we don't. Maybe we want to put some more benches there. Maybe we don't. I don't think you want to get nice to Dewey because I think the open space is
One of our few open space that
okay.
visible.
Karen,
We
is
could-
there any, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering, is there anybody that the town uses to design these spaces? I feel like if we just put it out there and ask people, what items do you want? We can just install them anywhere, but I feel like if there's like a nice design that's specific to each park initially and present something like that for comment, it might be nicer than just going in randomly, and it might be a more efficient way of using space so that there's like nice flow, there's open space, there's.
I hear what you're saying, but what I will tell you is that's 50 grand. When you start to get a designer involved, it's $50,000. So what I would like to do is start first. I think Steve's point is absolutely valid. Let's find out what the neighborhood would like. Yeah, we'd like a few, then we'd like to do this over phase. Great. Then what we can say is the neighborhood's decided they would like some swings and some benches and some other stuff. Then we turn it over to a designer. But I think,
Let me just ask this question. For Housatonic, I think it was Housatonic, maybe even before that, Grove Street. The companies that make these, if you buy from them,
they design
will
it.
design it. So if you decide that you want 3 pieces of equipment for certain ages, they will design it, Julie, for as long as you buy their equipment.
Right, and we can also
The input.
give our own input as to like how we wanted to.
Yeah, they were actually pretty good.
Yeah, I thought they did very well with that.
Yeah.
And, but I know that, and I will say this to you, Sir Debbie, talk to Chris Remble. He's got the catalogs and it's got them broken down, and that's how we went over and dealt with the thing at Lake Mansfield. I would start there, and maybe Julie with her thoughts could, you know, she could chat, you guys could chat and see what you think and come up with something in March. How about that, Julie? Does that work?
Fine, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we just delegated that. Bill, did you catch that?
I'm watching, I'm listening.
Okay, I just want you to make sure you
I
got it.
just realized you made fun of Joe for doing that, and he just did the same thing.
Absolutely. I learned from the master. Okay. Time bond, Giggle and Grove Street, Giggle Park. What's the problem with Giggles about where it's done? It's on your thing, Giggle Park. The tether ball's going in. We have a tether ball that's gonna go in this
When
spring.
did we decide tetherball? I completely blanked on that one.
It got shipped to our shop and it's been sitting there
So many
It's a
thoughts.
peasant.
over a
Huh?
year.
It's a prize. You don't like tetherball?
No, I just like to know what's going on once in a while, just to humor me.
We're just telling you. You got a lot of balls in the air, Steve. I think this was discussed. I know Joe brought it up early.
I didn't say it wasn't discussed.
All right, I
just
just-
missed it.
I don't remember that was.
All right, let me ask you a question. Does anybody have a problem with us putting a tetherball thing in the back of town hall?
Not if we're going back to 1950. It
Why
sounds like a
is
good idea.
Tetherball still existing.
Tetherball exists.
Good,
There's 3 people who play.
but not within the park.
Hey,
Not-
ball for tetherball? I mean, it's.
What?
People play tetherball.
Tetherball is great.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, Anna.
Well, we're gonna take a picture of it and ask 10 people what it is, and 9 are gonna say they have no idea.
All my kids love tetherball. My kids
So I think
below age
It's a
12.
public meeting.
Thank you.
So what can you say from April?
All right. So.
Karen,
Giggle, the only-
Karen,
Yes,
one thing about Giggle Park, if somebody could just check on the swingy things that are part of the climbing structure that used to be connected by chains to the base.
We ended up taking those out. Sean had us take them out. They're at the shop.
they're at the shop. They're not even
Okay,
there
great.
anymore.
Great, fabulous, excellent. Thank you.
Okay. I forgot she was here. She doesn't show up anywhere. How come I don't see her?
That's because I am literally on the highway.
I would do it.
All right, that makes it. And Grove Street, we've talked about, C is repetitive. We don't need that. We've just talked about that. Okay, we're gonna go on to new business. Hiking and walking trails. Julie Andujar, way to hum. I sent this out to everybody. I'm gonna read it.
Okay.
Great Barrington's, and I also forwarded to Kathy Couch. Hopefully it'll get on the website. Great Barrington's extensive trail network offers hikers and of all skill levels the opportunity to enjoy the town's beautiful natural landscapes, from mountain peaks to dramatic river floodplains. Trail maps and guides can be found at the following links. Please be aware that some listed trails may abut or cross privately held land. Always endeavor to stay on public paths and respect posted notices. And it's, the 4 links are on there. So I sent that to Kathy Couch and asked her to put that somewhere where it can be seen. Carolyn, would you follow up on that to make sure that it says hiking in Great Barrington somewhere? So if somebody wanted to find this, they could find it. It's not buried in 2017. Julie, thank you for your effort on that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody got any comments about this?
It's great.
Excellent. Okay. Now, this I'm gonna have Mr. Aberdale discuss. East Rock Trail on Quarry Street to be included as a trail. I got an email from Chief Walsh. Evidently, he talked to Joe a couple of months ago and said that this trail ought to be marked. And so Joe got a sign put up. Chief Walsh is suggesting, and I'm gonna suggest to this committee, somebody needs to go look at it. I don't know enough, that there should be some work done on the entrance to that trail. There's a lot of scrub and stuff to be cleaned out so people know it's a trail. Does anybody have any input on that?
This is.
Say that.
Yes,
Yeah, that, at the entry to that trail is, it's hidden and there's a steep step going into it, so. You know, that whole first section is pretty steep, but that is a spectacular walk up right in the center of
We
town.
went through there a little while ago with the guy who was doing the mountain bikes, or, well, I forget his
Rob.
name. Yeah, and there's also, you know, we got into it from the Park Street Park as well. It's because the Park Street Park butts right up against it, and there's many trails just that have randomly been established over the years for people using them.
well, it seems to
There's
me,
access.
if Chief Walsh took the time to write an email and whatever, it would behoove us to go check it out and see if we could get that cleaned up. Or even if Green Acres could be involved, or when Berkshire School volunteers to send kids for the day, that may be a perfect application for their efforts.
That's a great idea.
And,
Bill,
yeah,
would anybody here be willing to sort of check with Steve and Joe as to what would have to be done? I'm not trying to dump this on you.
So Chief Walsh sent in, an email that had a couple of things on it. This was one of a few things. Just things that troubled him when he drove around town. And one was there was a sign at East Rock that wasn't visible and maybe deteriorated. So we got our normal park sign put up, and the other thing you mentioned, you couldn't see it, so we cleared out the entrance there, so. You drive by, it's clear, no, it's no place to park. You know,
There's and there was also, not to interrupt you, but there was also a kiosk in there that got knocked down. There was
yeah, it was all deteriorated. And,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I don't think we have one of those stands where you have the doggy bags and stuff like that there. But,
The poop patrol.
For like $500, we can put one there.
yeah, no, if you wanted something there, but you know, if you want to look at it, you know, we can take a walk up and look at the entrance if there's a problem getting in there.
Tom, would you be willing to work with Joe on that?
yeah, I just want to add that Chief Walsh was across the street from Park Street, right? And we had talked about looking at that as a place, but again, it's a parking issue, but we have, you know, to have access to the whole East Mountain or that whole area, but there's potential, since we have a park there, that we could maybe put some parking from that area, but if it doesn't ruffle the feathers of abutters and neighbors. You
Yeah,
know,
you can see what we own.
because we did look at it, there's quite a, you know, the park is quite extensive, it goes way back past the field part that you see and where the swing set is. And that's how we went in, we were looking at, that's what they were proposing to do, the, you know, the raking the trails to get into that.
It
hole.
would make total sense to me that if we have assets that are not clearly defined and not being used because nobody knows they're there, that a real inexpensive way to do it would be to clean it up
Mhm.
and deal with it. So Tom, I'm gonna ask you if you would be so kind to look at that with Steve and Joe
Sure.
and report back to us. I mean, you can just take a peek at it and see what you got. I mean, it may not be able to be done now, but Joe, is that something that your guys can look at?
We can go and take a look at it, so you're just looking to make sure it's accessible and.
Right.
I wouldn't
Is this
mind
the
looking
place
at
where-
roads
oh,
too,
sorry.
to see about possible, I mean, since parking is always an issue, correct? To get into anything, if it's not within walking distance, that, you know, I know it's an issue at Grove Street, right? And so I think that we could at least look at it to consider what that.
Well, look at
have a
it.
pull off there, you know, have pull offs there, so we could fit a few cars
You know, you
because.
don't need 30 vehicles.
Well,
Julie, go
Yeah,
ahead.
is this the place, is this the entrance, near the easement where you have to kind of go around like the gate to like the water treatment easement road? Is that,
That's Reservoir Rocks.
That's
which is-
Reservoir Rocks. This is
Ah,
East
okay.
Rock.
okay,
You go down the other way on that road back towards town.
And you may be able to add another link. Gosh knows, who knows?
Could I just mention, since Julie brought that up, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it seems that Reservoir Rocks, the word has gotten out within the rock climbing community that Reservoir Rocks exists.
Right.
And in the past month, I have walked up, it's not Grove Street, whatever, East Street up to Quarry. I have counted up to 25 cars parked along that road with people getting into Reservoir Rocks to climb in there. We have, that whole ridge is
It's well known on the East Coast for bouldering.
worldwide,
Yeah.
worldwide.
So that's something we should probably look at some point, if there is a way to
Open that up a bit.
open it up. And the other thing is, has anybody heard any complaints from the neighbors? Like, there are people parking on our street. I haven't heard anything.
No, everybody is very, very careful. They park next to the open area there that's right by the river that's coming down. And I only get a sense that everybody is grateful to be able to get up there, but it is something that people are using. I've seen license plates from Tennessee, North Carolina, Kentucky. People are coming from all over the country to climb those rocks because it's a resource.
Where are they getting where's this info? Is this more
It's on
trails?
Bouldering
It's
community.
on the web. It's on the web. It's word of mouth. I've met people from England and Germany up there.
Okay, so gentlemen, do you have any input on what we're saying here? That's
Steve,
interesting.
let's take a walk. It is hidden and it's not town property. It's
Whose property
it's
is it?
Fire district property.
It's what? Oh.
Fire district.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about it at all.
Well, the only thing, in terms of like people recreating in our community, it's happening. And, it seems to me that as the board, the Parks Commission.
Yeah.
We could,
But it sounds successful. Let's not mess it up.
I love that.
I kind of agree, kind of disagree. I think it would be nice if we recognized our assets and at least, let's see what we can do to make them more attractive. If people are coming from all over the place, they're spending money, they're eating dinner, they're buying gas. So it's an economic development issue as well.
Then the first thing we should do is ask the fire district if they want us to do that. It's not our property.
I'm not going there.
Well,
You can talk
I
then.
had a similar issue with.
Never mind, we'll leave that right there. Okay, so developmentally, we'll look at that. Mr. Meyer and Mr. Norton, we are looking at the update on the Olympian Meadows repurpose. However, Mr. Joe Tonetti is here tonight, and I would like to hear from him based on my discussion and the long back and forth about taking care of the fields, and it wasn't done, and then they dug a ditch, and we need to do this. So I wanted to give Mr. Tonetti 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops to give us an idea of what Little League ideas are about going forward. Okay?
Thank you. First of all, I just wanted to reiterate what I said briefly in the last meeting, which was that I apologize for any bad blood. It seems like I was walking into some bad energy between Great Barrington, the league, and the Parks and Rec. So I'm hoping we can step back and kind of like mend that a little bit. So.
And who is your compatriot? You have two compatriots here this evening.
Let me introduce them. Trish Shorty, who was our president last year and is past president now. And Ron White, who is our veteran of the Great Barrington Little League.
Oh, he's a dinosaur. Not a
I
veteran.
think he's older than a
He's older than, he's as old as you. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Joe.
I think Paul would be the.
We don't have all the experience, do we? Okay, so but basically, I just wanted to say that we're trying to sort of mend a relationship here. And I think part of it was communication gaps between some of the former presidents, well before Trish, where the work was not getting done on a volunteer basis. So we have to come up with a new system. Hearing what I think Paul said and listening to Bill, we want to come up to improve the situation, because the way it was now, we'd have volunteers trying to do the work and the work wasn't getting done. And it became a problem. So
I'd like to say two things at this point. I am thrilled with the amount of effort that you have expended. And I'm also thrilled with this young lady over here who sort of had to go through this whole thing and tried her damnedest for a long period of time and met with a lot of recalcitrant persons who did not want to deal with what needed to be dealt with. And I appreciate
She
that.
didn't create it, though. You're right, she didn't create it.
Absolutely did not create it. She tried to fix it and it didn't work, but God bless you.
Try.
I
Can I
understand.
say one?
I'm still trying.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, I just want to say this, if you could bring 3 people to solve this problem, you couldn't have brought 3 better people. Ron, who's been here forever and is a terrific person. Joe, who I've spoken to, and really wants this to work, and Tricia worked her butt off to try to make this work, and through no fault of her own, it didn't work well.
Correct.
So,
We're also
so
working
I
on
have
it too. Thank you.
utmost respect right now for the 3 of you being here. So.
Yeah,
that's
that you
also-
showed up. That's big. That's huge.
So, yeah, so a couple of things though to back up, and so the fields weren't being maintained. I think that's the problem, so we have to find by which they're maintained on a regular basis. And part of that is now been established that we're hiring someone to do a big, not the only cleanup, but a big cleanup in the fall as per request, and then another big cleanup, fixing up the fields right before we start. In addition to that, we see that it would be beneficial, obviously, listening to some of the feedback I got from Paul and Karen directly, was there has to be maintenance after sort of every game, or every day, every day, every weekend, there has to be something. So we have Chip Paul, who's under the weather, and he's working with Memorial Field, I believe.
Unbelievable.
And he has offered to oversee maintenance gets done, as well as each team is responsible. So we have a 2-tiered system to try to make sure that people rake after every game. And then he's supposed to oversee if there's a problem and it's not getting done, it comes back to us and we have to kind of deal with it.
He's agreed to stop in at least weekly when he's in town. His son's coming up through the program as well. His youngest son is just starting in the Little League program, so he's got at least 4 years vested in there. But he's agreed to check the fields weekly, and as Joe said, right now we have it set for somebody to come in the spring and the fall at a minimum. If you guys think that we need to do it 4 times a year, as a league, I should probably say, I am no longer tech. I've stepped down from the board.
Then what in the name of God are you doing here now?
I
Want to make sure I understood.
can't let things drop, like, I can't just walk away.
That's good.
It's just
Yeah, that's
my
good.
nature. So,
We have 3 great people.
Yes, thank you for doing that.
no, but it's for the kids, it gave my son,
Man, and 3 people understand why you're doing this.
yeah.
Wow.
So if you guys think that more than 2 times a year professionally, I'm gonna say unofficial because I can't make decisions for the board, but we can certainly recommend.
Okay, I can say 3 things. I think that this is a much better idea than what I've ever heard. Number 2, we do have to repair the ditches dug around the edge.
I was just going to give up
Okay.
that. That's partially on me when they said, do you want to edge? And I was suggesting that they edge. I didn't know they were going to create divots. And part of that is.
My whole hands, I shed
Your
pictures.
finger-
I know, yeah, I know, the 1 digit, yeah.
Let's just be clear though, that we want to take, so communication, me hearing that that's not up to stuff from your perspective, and then us responding to try to fix that is part of the whole thing.
Who do you think should be the arbiter of those fields being in the correct shape? Who do you think should have the decision on that?
Well, Ron, I mean, it's your park. I mean,
Mr. Gibbons, do you have any input on this?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say before is that one of the problems we have when you were talking with Chris about coming back is that is one of the problems is that we have individuals today, and maybe that we have them again next year, and then they're gone, and it's a brand new group coming in, maybe. That's been one of the problems. So what we need to help to start off and eliminate a lot of the problem is continuity. And I think that that's what has not happened for the past probably 3 years anyway. And so I'm glad to see people coming back, even though it may be a pain in the veritable
Field.
year end.
Yeah, we've been.
But I think that that's the important, as far as,
We, can
I don't,
we agree with you 100%. If we could find that, we certainly would. And we're trying to recruit from the younger
Yeah.
families with younger kids, because I mean, I took over on a whim, literally last year, my son aged out. You know, there, we don't have that continuity, and the majority of our volunteers, Ron excluded. Around, you know, a lot of
You
them
just
have-
dragged him in here because he's the man.
Seen the Godfather?
Yeah.
the key to this problem is continual, regular, weekly maintenance.
Right.
Well, that. I think we
If
can-
that's done, we won't be having these kind of problems where
Exactly.
you have to hire somebody to go in and they don't do it properly. That's the key. And if you can solve that problem, God love you all.
Well, hopefully for the next 4 years, I'll get Paul's son.
No, I'm willing.
We also have to think about that,
Yeah.
Although,
Yeah.
because the green agent, like anything, we are open to suggestions. Obviously, the volunteer is not working these days as well as it used to work.
well, my ability to do the kind of work that I used to do even just 10 years ago is kind of limited because of my needs. But I'm willing to help out wherever I can to oversee and make suggestions. I've been doing this since I was 21.
That was a great.
So I know.
Karen wanted to hear you say that.
Yeah.
She waited till she left the room.
Exactly.
And I will say this, I will be glad to do anything, not physical work, because I can't do that anymore either. But not that I could ever do it very well, but I will be glad to do anything to help with this. As long, especially since Ron's involved. Ron and I have known each other a long time, and
Well, I appreciate that, and that's great, that's,
Mr. Aberdale,
Mr. Gibbons just said what you wanted to hear.
yes.
what did he say?
I missed it.
Nature called. What'd you say?
I don't know.
He offered to help oversee.
Oh,
Oh,
Like, pick up there.
Good job.
that's what I want. That's, here's the thing, is that between the amount of time and angst and everything else, if between Paul and Joe and Steve, it can be looked at, and if Chip Paul's involved, I feel really good about that. I would feel really comfortable if you come up with an action plan. I mean, we're talking here, but this is what we're gonna do. Boom, did a boom, did a boom, did a boom. Bring it back in January. We can vote on it. In the meantime, Mr. Norton and Mr. Meyer have come up with a plan on how to put a soccer field in on the outskirts of the baseball diamond that would not impinge on that, so you could maintain both fields as long as you're good dinkies and you do that.
they've all got the
They've all got
copies.
copies.
Oh, Steve.
He didn't. No,
Thank you. Now, how, you're super wondering.
it's an inside joke. Let me explain. The biggest problem, somebody said, Tom Norton said, and I don't want to hear from him,
This way.
that these trees would have to come down. And I don't know how much of a problem that
Can I
is.
say something?
You certainly may.
I've talked to both, Chris Rembold a little bit about this, on what it would take, because it's wetlands and we have all those issues. Right, and there's one small angle that we could go with at it first. And that was, I've talked to Mike Peretti, the tree
Why-
warden.
But
Well,
why did
because-
you do
because
that?
Because to evaluate the trees, because the trees are an issue, and there may be different ways to get around. That, like, some of that stuff might be some really, bittersweet and
No, I understand that,
dangerous
but I would
trees.
like that to come from the DPW, not from an
Well,
individual.
I'm
without-
just doing it for planning purposes.
I understand that, Tom, but there's a process. We have governance. Please do not go
I'm not.
off the reservation on it,
I'm
because
not doing that. I'm
there
just
may be a
talking to
process
people.
that we can do this without getting all people getting things in a knot, but previously, because I don't know how much of that really falls into a wetlands, and I'm not sure. Chris, I know it's
Can I also just say one thing?
Concom, we don't know.
This is a 120 foot by 80 foot pitch. That's like a professional pitch. Like there are other pitches that are 105 meters by 67, I think. There's a variety of different sizes that you can do with this. So there's not, we might not have to cut down that many trees, but if we are gonna just open up that area to soccer, then there's some things might have to come down, you know?
So Bill, I wanted to show you, you hadn't got back to me, I got some, I did a similar thing on my own,
Yeah,
where we have. One of my friends made scale pitches of different sizes to use an overlay on this grown-up drawing, so you can actually play around with it and see where a real, this size field could go. Which is right, this one's a little small, it's a 110 by 70, which is, but has a minimum regulation, and then.
Big enough.
Right, and here's 100 by 60, which is smaller, which if you play around with it and locating it, you may be able to get it in less space.
I think these are all, this is an excellent way to process. This is an excellent process. But what I'd like to do is make sure that we're all on the same page before we go that way. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, this is a twofold issue. The first issue is Little League, get it together, right?
Right.
Okay. If Little League says, yeah, we're gonna get it together, then then we can say and make a formal vote on it next month. Little League is gonna do, and in the meantime, what we ought to do in order to facilitate a new field, so there is another soccer field, here are some of the thoughts. It's this scale, and I would like oversight.
Can I suggest, first of all, I agree with what Little League. Can I suggest that we ask Joe and Steve to talk to Shep Evans, the conservation agent,
Yes,
to find out exactly what has to happen?
yeah, that's where I wanted this to go. I wanted to come directly from Shep because he's the Concom.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
I
Tenetti.
was just gonna say, I'm also open to, I wanna open up if someone, especially Paul, or if someone he had a great suggestion about the infield play dirt that we use.
Yeah,
He had some good recommendations about how to go forward, what to do, what we can't do, but if we do have someone that we could hire for our spring maintenance and our fall maintenance that is very good at this type of work, we're open to having a discussion with them. Obviously, we want someone that's gonna be delicate on the field and knows what we need, knows our end game.
my question is how is this going to be paid for?
I'm still signing up with the checkbook.
Well, that's a good question. That's a fair question. It doesn't have to be,
Old.
and maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't necessarily have to be exorbitantly expensive to hire someone in the fall for a weekend and in the spring.
I agree.
But that's why we're not necessarily gonna hire someone throughout the whole season, because we have to get people to do it anyway on a regular basis, and they're already there.
Go ahead, Bill.
so the last meeting, we talked about that there's two people that work regularly over at the Housatonic playgrounds. And we had like two people show up a day at the Housatonic playgrounds. I would like to say that these fields, if we open these fields up, that we know that the baseball fields need maintenance. If we have a soccer field there, we know that that's going to get pretty regular use. Is there some way we could like think out of the box here a little bit and maybe even like support programs where the town has a soccer program and a baseball program, and there's a guy or a girl in there, a person in there who's in charge of maintenance and making sure that the fields get used correctly, and you know, just like, because to me, if we have a soccer field in there, if we have these baseball fields opened up and nicely maintained, and we have dedicated people like this that are gonna have a vibrant Little League program, then we can turn this area into like a real focus of town recreation. And I think we can support that. Or I would like to recommend that we try to think about that.
So I think we have a lot of ideas all on the table at one time. I think, first of all, let's deal with Little League.
Yeah.
I think that that's a whole bill, that's a whole budget issue, not a bad idea, not a good idea, I'm not, that's a whole budget issue of how much would we have to pay, and is there really work for them to do? We already have baseball, we don't want to take over baseball. Soccer, there's already a soccer,
Yeah,
it's very successful. It doesn't use our fields, and that's okay, no one has to, so, but I think that's a good discussion to have. But first, let's deal with that, deal with your soccer ideas. And then on a future agenda, let's talk about whether we want to hire someone or not, and whether, what their job would be.
well, the other thing is,
Not a bad idea, though.
no, I think it's a global strategic plan is what we're looking at recreation. And I don't think it's a bad idea. But I certainly would like to get what we've got and get it done right before we expand anything. I think that the other thing is I don't think I want to go to Housatonic and say, no program for you, bye. Yeah, I'm not doing that either at this point. So I think that, and you're right, because the numbers weren't there. People aren't doing it. Okay, great. And the other thing is that what happens at Housatonic is not always athletic. And the other thing I'd like to be aware of is that not everything we need to do for kids or adults or whatever needs to be athletic. There may be other things that recreation can do. So I hear what you're saying, Bill, but I really would like to take what we've got and get this working correctly before we do anything else. Trish.
Maybe just a stepping stone between each individual organization doing it themselves and then bringing the town is maybe having some sort of co-op between the organizations that do use those fields, the softball, the football, the little league, the soccer, and maybe coordinate those however many groups and have some sort of maintenance co-op, meaning we, little league chips in $1,000, soccer chip, and we hire somebody to take care of those 4 fields 4 times a year. And that part of the set, maybe as a stepping stone between us taking care of just our fields and then asking the town to have somebody come in and take care of it. I mean, I think that's always an option. Collaboration between the organizations that use them, I think could be a really important tool that's not being utilized.
Absolutely.
Everybody working together.
Joe?
That's
Well,
good.
I mean, it's not, yeah, where are you gonna get the money was one of your earlier questions, so like, getting sponsors, I mean, I can go to Theory Wellness and ask them to sponsor. I don't know with youth sports if that's the best play, but I'm telling you that that's the classic PR,
What do you
like,
mean? Theory Wellness was out here
no, I'm just saying, they
for the
want to
Jerry
look good.
Garcia thing.
They want to look good in the community like they're giving. They want that, I think.
I'll take their money, just don't sell it to my kids.
A lot of people will take their money, and so it's something down the road, it's like, we need sponsorship. And I know Lee Bank helps with the Lee Field, and the Lee Field looks good.
Yeah,
So, how to get there, though, I think that brainstorming together as a team is a good thing. I don't know if our volunteers are gonna do, I think that they'll do the regular field maintenance, and I think that the plan would be that we would do a whole hardcore weeding without any heavy equipment. I know all the rules, that I'm not gonna break any of your rules,
good.
and I don't
Very
want the
good.
divots right by the grass. That's
Yeah,
not-
bad idea.
That's, we'll fix it, and so,
Okay.
and then going
Right
forward.
now, as an organization, we have the funds to fix that.
Yeah, and that really, as long as you're committed to doing it, or how you get the money. That's, I'm not gonna go in the weeds with that one. My question is this. Your board and your president, who's your new president, or don't you have one yet?
There's a reason why I'm still sitting here. even
Okay,
though
that's what I thought.
months ago.
The key to
We're
this is,
recruiting right now, Steve, so just.
yeah, the key to this is, the key to this, as you know, is the 3 of you, terrific. If your board and your president don't cooperate, it doesn't matter. So the 3, the whoever's your board is and your new president have to have the same mindset as the 3 of you.
Well, we look one, we have 4 feet, we have 3.
You know, the other, there's 2 missing parts in this whole scenario. Coaches and parents,
You got one coaster.
coaches and
And
parents.
assistant coach.
I'm telling
I
you.
keep it that way, I've been offered the.
Yeah. The parents need to get into this because we tend to have, and I watched it, helicopters. Land. I'll be back in 2 hours, honey. They need to get involved. And that's the league's bailiwick, not ours.
And we have a vested interest in making that work too.
Okay,
because we're
so what
not-
I'm gonna ask you to do is this. I want you to come back in January for the January meeting, and I want an action plan. What's Little League gonna do in order to make sure that we don't have any of these communication issues. Okay? Mr. Gibbons and Mr. Aberdale will be your overseers. And Mr. Paul can deal with them. Okay? On the other hand, what I'd like to see from Joe and Steve is to check with the Concom and use those scales that Tom so gratefully, and see which one seems to have the least impact that would cause the least amount of difficulty. And what the cost would be in order to, I mean, soccer field, you gotta mow it, you may have to level it, there may be some.
That's what I was gonna ask, is how flat does this, or would you want this to be? 'Cause that area is pretty,
It's a little bumpy.
yeah.
We'd have to get in there and do some work to it.
Especially if we expand it into the woods a little bit, yeah,
You have to rip all the stumps out. And
yeah, all that.
That's a lot of work.
Which is why I was suggesting to have it looked at by tree warden, because when I went down there and looked there, I saw a lot of, there's dangerous trees along the edge, which are, there's different angles that we could pursue that would let us get in there to get rid of some of that stuff.
That needs to be evaluated, absolutely.
That's
So it's a
why
two-part issue. What Little League's gonna do and what do you think you can do with the existing topography? And how big a space you could put in there? You were gonna say something, Joe?
I just, we have the two fields there. Is there sufficient kids?
Where's this
for two fields?
Yeah, the other problem is, I think if we don't have that minor league, that smaller field. The program's gonna be strangled, because you're not going to get parents to drive, families to drive from Richmond and Stockbridge and West Stockbridge. Drive their 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds down to Sheffield to play. They just won't play.
No, it was just a question.
Yeah, no, it's about.
We did use this
Yeah.
schedule if you wanted, I can
Yeah.
share it with you, but our numbers were down like everyone's during COVID.
Sure.
They dropped off very fast and they stayed down for the extra year. And then they started creeping up last year to the point where we're almost back to where we were.
Yeah.
So right now, we're kind of like, even if if it keeps going down for some reason, a few years, we don't really have that strong of a case. In some ways, that's the best argument. If you want to get rid of the field, we were like, okay, we don't have enough, but right now, we're trying to build it up to where it was. That's all.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Norton,
Well,
you're next.
when we were looking at it, and one of the things we considered, and what I saw, is there's quite an extensive amount of infrastructure that's there. Whether it's it needs upkeep and maintenance, yes, but to get rid of it, you're talking about, that's almost a bigger job than.
Yeah, I just through the whole discussion, I didn't hear if we were focusing on one field or two fields. And I wanted to make sure that, because we were kind of going a different direction.
Okay,
And I wanted to make sure that was in the.
Yeah,
which
we
is great.
also used it, sorry to interrupt, we also used it a lot for practices when there were games on the major league fields between the two teams. If one or two of the teams would also hold their practices while the other teams were.
There you
playing
go.
on there. So it was used by all the levels.
Yep.
Some of the younger games, the coaches pitch and T-ball, those were in Sheffield and Egremont, again, because the way that the league has typically been set up is the younger kids are grouped by location as opposed to the draft system where the other, the minor league and the major league are. But we did, I think we did have enough kids to use both fields in Barrington. I think it would be.
You're faced with an ever-changing dynamic. too.
Absolutely.
As the
Oh,
parents grow up,
absolutely.
they Participate in the
Okay.
crowd. and-
Yep.
We got to move on. Go ahead, Paul.
Just one quick
Your
question.
next one.
The other communities that are part of the league, Sheffield. Who else?
Richmond.
Oh,
Stockbridge, Anchorman.
Stockbridge, West Stockbridge, Richmond, Barrington, Sheffield, Egremont, Monterey,
Okay.
Marlboro.
Do you use for the older kids? Fields in those communities for games?
The minor league, we use the major league field in Sheffield. We use that for the older kids. That's the only other regulation major league size
Yeah,
field.
okay, I've been there.
We
so.
have had the smaller fields, minor league has played, I know last year played at Egremont. We used the smaller, T-ball used the smaller field in Sheffield.
Stockbridge had
So-
the Boulder-
So the minor league kids are also using fields outside of the community, outside of Great Barrington. Okay,
Sheffield, Nevermont.
all right. That's all I
But
want.
there, out of all those towns, there are only 3 towns that have fields.
That's a, well,
I think that's
maybe
a-
for the major.
I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
dilemma, and that needs to be brought up to those particular municipalities saying, hey, we're servicing your kids.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's.
What are you gonna do
it's-
for us?
You kind of want it, but you kind of also don't want to be like.
Monterey's
huge, right?
fields are used by the Cal Ripken League. The fields that used to be used by, I think it was before it was big. Cal Ripken, I believe, uses the field in Monterey. It was behind the fire station there. if I
Who's
remember
Karen
correctly.
Atkins? That the-
Mill River, I don't think has one anymore. To the best of my knowledge.
But they're happy to use ours.
But to get,
Yeah,
not to go
Well,
too deep into this,
That's,
in order to have a league, they need the numbers.
I understand, it's a,
Right.
I
So if they only have one team.
It's either or, I
I
understand.
registered for the Stockbridge, I'm a Stockbridge resident, and I called up and registered use
Yeah.
of that field last year.
Okay,
And we had use of it, and we used it for like the ball, where the coaches pitch for practicing one game.
I don't think
It's
it's.
a
big
rough-
enough for
it's a
the-
rough,
Okay. so we know where we're going. You're gonna talk to Concom. I'm gonna give you a second. You're gonna come back with a plan in January. Tom's, this should go to Joe, because the scale is well done. This is a great idea. Well done. And you're gonna come back in January, right? What else? You were gonna say something, Joe?
The thought process on the soccer field is that practice, softball field is gonna disappear.
That is not happening.
Okay.
No.
That practice softball field is out of the discussion. Okay, anything else on this department?
Before anyone asks you, football is still going to be included as part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just before anyone. says
Well, if a
anything.
soccer field and a football field kind of looks like the same underwear to me.
I'm sure you'll get someone to tell you that they're different needs, but I mean, keeping the dogs, off of the
football's
people walking their
small.
dogs on them, I mean. There's always there's, to Bill's point, taking care of the fields is a good idea, having someone there.
How we do that, how we monitor that is.
One thing that,
I know, but I see them down there.
well, one thing that
What?
I noticed,
Hold the time, what,
Who's
Steve?
supposed to enforce the rules about dogs? Leash laws, where they're supposed to be, picking up.
The dog, the animal.
Dog
control
officer, the animal control
It
officer.
can't be everywhere. You know,
That dog wasn't domestic.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you supposed to do, call the cops if you see somebody walking?
I would, if I
Are
was,
they allowed to
if
walk
I was a
around?
citizen and I saw people with dogs, I'd call the police and say, why are the dogs down there?
But
You do
there
that
are,
enough-
there are no dog runs in this town, and there are so many people with a dog, you know, so many people own dogs, and there's nowhere to go. They can't do anything with their dogs except walk them on a leash.
I agree with you, but that doesn't give them permission to violate our bylaws.
No, I know that. I'm just saying, maybe there's an idea here to just fence off a very small dog run on such a large, piece of land. It might be the best way to keep them off of the fields. You just have a little fenced in area. People would know about it. They would be happy to just go there and use it, just like in Washington Square Park and these other
Hey,
places.
fundraise it.
It's not the worst idea, right?
Let me tell you something. I started this 18 years ago with Christine Ward about a dog park. Let me tell you something. This has been beat to corners. You come up with the fences and we could probably put it down there. Fundraise it.
How much is a fence?
$20,000 minimum.
Okay.
one thing that would have to happen in this picture is that they did do the river walk or whatever, the extension of the walk through the hard gravel area that goes around that whole, and that was a whole other project, so that would have to get pushed.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
They're not pushing that anywhere.
Well, the soccer field that we're looking at would
I
be
know.
on top of part of that.
Okay, boys and girls, we got to move on. All right.
And it would have
It
to
is,
get pushed.
it's on the back section back here.
Yeah.
Okay. Berkshire South, are you here?
Yes.
Mark, the signatory, somebody let him in.
Yeah.
Hello? Steve, can you do that?
I did.
Mark,
Yes,
you're here from Berkshire South. What do you got to tell us? Nobody was here last month.
I was. We discussed the the last meeting that we had, I did the report. And that was the last meeting we had. And then I think this follow-up, I believe, is about the, a little research on the goose problem.
Right,
So I saw our name on the agenda and I'm here to, I assume, to talk about that because there wasn't any other item on there.
okay, so what do you got to get rid of the geese?
So I did wind up talking to the town of Lennox, and they have found something that seemed to be working fairly well for them, and they're all effectively mechanical devices. They've got a bobblehead owls that they've put out. Yes, it's true. And then they have dog silhouettes they put out too. And then they have a light thing that emits light that's on the shore. And they say that it has been working. My concern would be if we try to do something like that down at Lake Mansfield, that they will all go missing as novelty gifts in some teenager's bedroom. They can they lock their beach area down there, as many of you may know, on Laurel Lake. And that's, you know, there are a bunch of different solutions, potential solutions out there, including chemicals and natural and non-natural solutions. But honestly, I don't know as to what would really work. I mean, if we went with maybe some owls and we anchored them to the ground in some fashion that made them extremely difficult to remove, it might be a relatively inexpensive thing to try.
Why don't you come back with a budget?
You would like me to come back with a budget?
Yep,
Sure.
great. Let's do that.
Okay.
How about that?
Yeah.
Anybody on the committee? I'd like to know what it costs for a bobblehead owl personally. And also a wolf silhouette.
Yeah.
And if that's what we got, we're not putting chemicals down and we can't start with the beacon searchlights. People will go out of their mind.
Yes, they will.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
Okay, you folks have a good night.
Okay. Charging for the use of town spaces. I want everybody to refer themselves to the document that Mr. Aberdale that we sent out today on the MIAA insurance and discussion. Joe, can you summarize this pretty quick?
We had a quick discussion with the town insurance company to determine that, you know, where our risk potentials may or may not be. They're on board with the process you guys are using for the most part, where you're getting applications to use town facilities and approving them and get insurance certificates and indemnification agreements for whole harmless. The thing that raised the eyebrows is when you were charging for use of facilities, because you're basically getting into the rental business. And it implies you are providing a higher level of service. And the concern even got raised higher when you're allowing for-profit organizations to use it for physical activity where there's a potential of people getting hurt.
Whole new concept.
They prefer, you know, it's like Berkshire, you know, so we shared the situations like we're doing now with like the Berkshire Grove, basically a nonprofit organization, but for-profit, you know, people in there. It's didn't seem to have an issue with that at all. You know, and we have an agreement with them where basically we're charging for services that we're providing, you know, the cleaning and stuff like that.
Toilet paper and all that.
Right, so it's not like, someone slips and falls in the parking lot because it wasn't salted the right way and we're held liable for it, you know. So, but then when I share things about some of the other organizations that are using it and charging people to use it as an extension of a business. It was very concerning, because there are actually some clauses in our policy that increase our risk.
So let me ask you a question. We've got like a yoga group and she charges. She's either out. We just throw her out. Okay,
I would recommend we not do that. Not tell us we can't.
or I'll tell you one thing. None of those people have ever signed a waiver, nor have any of the basketball people signed a waiver. So that would be the first thing I would suggest, is everybody has to sign a waiver.
Well, like you're talking basketball people, like the men's basketball.
Yeah.
Well, much like you're doing with your pickleball, maybe we can incorporate that into.
A town program.
Sponsored activity where they're required to sign before they participate.
Right, that's what I can see right now is that the basketball needs a waiver. Ruby, I think we need to tell her she's done.
I think you need to be careful that pulse and
Pulse doesn't charge for the boxing.
no, but it's an extension of a for-profit business, right?
Okay,
And you know, and again, we can take each individual situation and give, an opinion.
oh boy.
I did ask the question.
They're
about-
providing that at no cost.
I don't know the detail, but if that's,
First year Pulse. Ruby is a whole different thing. That's easy enough. We're gonna have to deal with that. I'm not gonna deal with it right now. We'll deal with it next month and what we're gonna do and say you're done, whatever. But the basketball, the men's basketball, I think that we can easily ask, they're not charging. It could be a program extension and we could easily get a waiver on that. Pickleball, they get a waiver and they're not getting paid. It's a town program, so that takes care of that.
and maybe like even on like the Little League, when someone signs up for Little League to sign their children up, do they sign a waiver for you? So I'm pretty sure the same thing happens. Again, we're focusing on the community center, but this is parks in general.
Yeah,
The basketball, when people sign their kids up, they sign a waiver. Okay, so in turn, your organization and basketball organization are protecting stuff. This is
We also have our own insurance policy too, that we provide for the towns along, and then we have those waivers.
which the basketball does too.
Yeah.
So in essence, we may be able to be copied on those waivers to help protect us.
okay. Go ahead, Paul.
What, are you saying that? If, let's take the Housatonic Basketball League. They are not a not-for-profit group. Unless they have been so designated by the IRS.
Like a
So they can say they're nonprofit, but that's not legally true. So where do they fit in something like this?
Well, again, I would, each individual things with, if we have specifics like that, I would want to go back and get an opinion, but we talked through that it's not like, it's not like when I owned my business, I went to the community center and conducted business on their property to make money. Well, they might take in money, but it's not like people are walking out of there being paid.
It's an expense, they're generating, they're covering
But I
expenses.
understand where you're coming from, Paul, that they might be, was a 503C corporation.
501c.
Well, that's what I'm talking
Right.
about, because they're not legally
But-
not for
You have a
profit.
question?
Yeah, I explained that to Nick when we were talking. Now, we didn't get to that level saying, do we have documentation that they're not for profit?
Okay, so an offshoot to that. What I'm hearing that Chris just said is that when the kids play Little League ball, somebody signs a waiver. Who signs the waiver?
The parent.
Parent.
Parent or legal guardian.
Is from information that I heard, the parent cannot waive the child's rights.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can.
If they're under 18, yes, they can.
Yeah.
That was a legal opinion we got some time ago,
No.
is that you can't,
No,
that doesn't hold
child
water.
can't. I mean, for anything, I have to sign everything. Guardian, he can't,
Right,
I can waive his rights like that.
You can waive yours.
I can
waive
waive.
his.
Right, well, I can waive when it comes to his safety and something like that, it wouldn't be him taking legal action because he's a minor, it would be me taking legal action on his behalf. So I sign a waiver as his parent and legal guardian that I will not take legal action for injuries that he may sustain.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you can sign it. But if something happens, you can change your mind and sue the hell out of everyone.
Okay, we are in the weeds here and
Okay.
I've got the
So-
weed whacker.
Forgetting about that, getting back to something like Little League or Housatonic or whatever. Are you kind of saying that the insurance people are saying we can't charge them a fee for the use of it because it elevates the town's liability?
Correct.
Right. I think if you want to be creative in your wording, like we were with Berkshire Grown, where we said, well, we're providing the service for the fee, the janitorial service, the cleaning.
Yep.
But if it's kind of something that we're just gonna charge $500 a year just to put something in our kitty, the level of expectations of what you're providing carries risk.
What I may do with Ruby is say, in order to cover the janitorial expenses because of the class, it will be approximately $100 a month.
But I think what happens in a situation like that, it's a for-profit corporation that's charging people. So I think, if you put your thought on how we want to do that, we present it to the insurance company, they might say, yeah, that's great, that's a good idea to cover.
You can also, what we're looking for is a consideration.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bill.
Me?
Bill.
Oh, what happens if those guys come in and they have their own insurance policy and they add the town on as additional insured on their policy?
Right.
That's what we want.
Okay,
So.
That's what we do.
Right.
The Pussy basketball.
They all do
insurance policy,
Right.
Listed as additional
Yeah.
insured.
so
We get
even
this all
for
the
profit,
time.
even.
But there's still risk. It's like,
Sure.
okay, they're waiving their right, but if we charge in a situation, you better make sure every door opens.
Okay, this has got, this is way too in the weeds right now. What we need to do is case by case basis. I think the only thing we're looking at this juncture with the two would be the yoga and the boxing.
Charging for fees or rental, like a real estate rental.
Oh, boy. How about if you couch it as something as in consideration a donation? It's voluntary.
We can pose anything to the insurance company.
Well, that's what I would like to get into at some point. Okay. Next on the list. Thank you for all that effort. Lake Mansfield Task Force, what do you got?
We haven't met.
Okay, it solves that problem. Mike Peretti, the trees are in, are they being watered?
Nature's doing a good job of it.
Okay, so we're all set with that? Lake
We're
Mansfield-
done watering for the year.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope so. It is freaking December. Lake Mansfield Beach area, metal climber, new equipment, there's still parts missing and those will come in for the spring?
Supposed to arrive this week, and they said if they arrive this week, they'll be up right after the first of the year.
Okay, so you'll update us on that.
Yep.
Raymond Street, Regina. Somebody make her legit.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. What do you got for us?
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
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 I don't have much for you. Just wanted to give you guys an update that we're going to be hiring a new skate park coordinator for the spring, but we have plenty of time and we already put our applications out there and have some good leads. Yeah, but we've been doing pretty good at River Street and have been talking to some people in the skate park community on what to do for next summer and getting some good ideas. People really like the skate lessons, so we're going to
How
bring that
about your
back, definitely.
contract? Are you up to date on your contract?
I think we're up to date. I can check back in with Ananda though. And Sabrina.
Why don't you do that? Because I'm just make sure between that and Berkshire South, if you could make sure.
Yep, I can do that
Okay.
and come back.
CPC update. Mr. Gibbons requested an update. We have met. CPC is reviewing 9 applications for a total ask of $1.7 million. They are as varied as McAllister Park, getting rid of some more. They've been doing a phase process. My brain is absolutely mush.
That's okay.
The Cove has come in and asking for money for, under historic preservation. We have met with all 9. Ian Roush has come in for a total of $750,000, some historical and also affordable housing. We met and have reviewed all 9 projects. On December 29th, CPC will be reviewing all 9 and deciding who's going to get what out of what pile in order to present to town meeting.
Okay.
If you want the details on that, you can go to the town website on CPC and it breaks down everything that you wanted to know. Okay,
Just one question, how much money do we have, or does the town have in the fund? You said when someone's asking for 1.7 million.
I will tell you that we believe, based on what the town has contributed and what the money coming back from the state is, that we will have approximately $1.4 million to distribute.
Okay, so someone couldn't possibly get 1.7.
No. And there may be some things that CPC want to be considering off timing that may be coming up that we may want to support. Okay, but none of that's an absolute unknown at this juncture.
And everything that CPC recommends goes before the town meeting
Absolutely,
for a vote.
absolutely.
Okay.
Nothing can be
And there's
expended.
no parks projects in that.
There are no parks projects involved. The only thing that I have to remember is that we have a bond that we've issued on Memorial Field, and I don't know if anybody's bothered to remember to take that out of, you know what I mean, whatever the bond payment is, so I gotta check with Chris. So it may not be 1.4, it may be 1.2 or something like that. We don't have any of those numbers yet, because what happens is the state legislature will say, and we're a 3% community, we get the highest return, and there are 3 payouts, depending on what percentage, and the other thing is what we've collected in fees, as well as how many other towns have now gotten involved in CPC.
A lot more.
Yeah, well, the bigger cities have got, but they just dumped another $25 million in it. The state legislature did. Okay.
Thank you.
Victoria, Rick, you were not here when you were supposed to be, but I'm going to give you 3 minutes to present. Going back, this is a request to do forest walks. And this will feed right into what Mr. Aberdale's been talking about. So would you promote her and let her go
She's
through?
already promoted.
Okay, go
Hi.
ahead, Victoria.
Hi, yeah, sorry I wasn't here earlier. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. So yes, I've recently been certified as a forest therapy guide, and I was reaching out to see if you would give me permission to do forest therapy walks on various parklands in Great Barrington. So basically the forest therapy walks, they're mindfulness walks in the woods. I would take it would be like one-on-one client or a group of people. And it would be like a 2-hour walk in the woods. And there would be like a meditation portion. There would be different invitations, getting people to be in the present moment. And a little tea ceremony at the end. I have liability insurance and can add the parks on my insurance to help cover any liability there. And I am planning to charge a fee for each session.
What is that total?
So for a one-on-one or 2-person walk would be $150. And then each additional person would be $25 on top of that.
After our discussion with Joe tonight,
Yeah.
don't think that's now possible.
I will take input from all committee members. Anybody else want to chime in on this?
Yeah.
Tom, go ahead.
Well, if it's public land that people can go and walk on, and if she wants to, I mean, I don't know that this has to come before the board to be, just go ahead and do it. If you want, it's not our business really, is what I'm, because if it becomes our business, then it gets complicated with everything that we were discussing about liability and all that other stuff. But, we have property, town parks is available to basically everybody to utilize. Within.
To your point, you can go and have a yoga class or whatever.
Yeah.
At any park and charge for it, and we wouldn't even know.
Right.
Again, I'm not trying to.
No, but I mean, I think that's, because
I'm happy to have the input. Go ahead, Tom.
I just think that that's, been approached as with a lot of different things,
Mhm.
if you're on public property, bring some kids fishing, people, the space is there to become available for the people, the town and public. to
Right.
use.
Anybody else, any comments, concerns, or
Did
issues?
I hear correctly that this program involves a fee to the individuals who are doing it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, she charges.
So it's not just casually walking on town property.
Well,
It's casually walking on town property and then charging a fee for some program that you're running on town property.
Yeah,
There's
It's
a big
not-
difference between just walking on the property.
right, but my point is that there's a lot of this going on already, and they're not asking us.
There may be,
I know for a fact Canyon Ranch is,
oh, God,
guides that are bringing people, and these guys are paying big money and they're going on bike rides and hiking and they're using all trails and all this stuff. And they're not coming before us and asking for permission to do it. And they're making a hell of a lot of money in the process of this.
that's
So what is our business to regulate that is, I guess, my question.
just to
That's
get,
not germane to our discussion. The discussion is on this particular program, which is requesting to use public lands that we control and charging a fee for some services using our property to do it. So listening to what Joe has said, I'm not prepared to vote in favor of it.
Well, I think what Tom is saying
Yeah.
is we just don't vote,
Right.
because she could do this, or anyone could do this without asking our permission. And
What you're asking then is for me and everyone else to forget that this was brought up. It's like in a courtroom where the judge says, disregard this. Well, what good does that make? I just heard it.
but if 10 other people are doing the same thing and didn't come to us, we're gonna punish one who did come to us to try to do it the right way?
We need to do it the right way. We need to now do it the right way. They came before us, they did the right thing. Now we gotta do the right thing.
No, because to me, if we deny the request, it means she can't do it.
Yeah, right.
And
So
so that's what we're wrong.
What would the insurance company say about this? Joe?
They're not telling us not to do it, they're just telling us our risk is greater. Which means of an accident or something like that, we have more liability and more cost exposure. Because, and Steve might be able to hear, but as a municipality, our liability is limited.
I think it's
10
5,000.
million.
Is it? No, I think it's like $5,000.
Right, and I think that becomes an issue. I think because you're offering the service or allowing the service.
I'm gonna make a suggestion.
We can take this and I can go to the insurance company.
I think, first of all, I'd like to table this. Okay, I'd like to table this until we have better information. And my feeling about this is somebody can make a motion, nobody seconds it, and it dies in committee. And then it's like, I am not in the business of monitoring a tea ceremony in the park. I'm just not doing it. We got enough to deal with. And I understand your point, Paul, but I'm not doing it. So I would like to make a recommendation that we table this until maybe Aberdale in his ongoing discussions with the insurance company, may be able to get a little more guidance on this.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Yes.
all those in favor, roll call vote, Sir Debbie,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes,
Steve,
Yes,
Paul,
No.
Bill,
Yes. Table.
Karen, yes. Terry,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes,
Alana.
Proper motion is to postpone indefinitely.
Okay, no, I voted to table. Okay, great.
Thank you to Victoria for being.
Victoria, thank you for coming. Why don't you call me after Christmas Day and we'll chat?
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to let everybody know that the pickleball program is it is working. It is up. I know because I was there today doing a dry run with incredible thanks to Steve Larkin for all of his work, and Brian and Joe and whatever. The other thing I'd like to I'd like us to sort of think about having what we call park angels. If we're gonna put all these benches in the parks, we have people that are park angels, like Darren Carlson and Chipper Paul. There are people, and Paul Gibbons, who have done and been park angels, and I'd like us to take these benches and put a decent sign on every one of them in our parks to honor the people who have supported our parks programs. So we don't have to, it's not formal tonight, but I'm just bringing it up. Committee speak. Bill, you done? Paul,
all right,
Steve, Tom,
just one,
quickly.
yeah. We had just talked about old maids just briefly before, but I wanted to just ask Joey, because it goes back to even a couple of years before, when Sean was involved, we were looking at just trying to do some work to clean up the banks of the river where there was some dangerous rocks and different things like that, and I can see, that whole, because I think it makes it'd be worth looking at it to make it so it's a little, so it is acceptable for people to go fishing and do stuff in
It
there.
does get used a fair amount.
Yeah, and I think, I wouldn't mind if I could look at it with.
Why don't
Joe.
you ask me and we'll put it on the agenda for the spring. Also, you can now go to the Town of Great Barrington website. If you want to play pickleball, you must sign a waiver ahead of time. And then you'll get a welcome letter about how you can sign up and starting to play, which will start next Tuesday. Citizens speak. Anybody want anybody who's a citizen, do you want to speak? All right, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
second.
Adjourned.
Roll call. Yeah, everybody approves. Bye-bye now. Thank you.
What about the next meeting? It's scheduled for Martin Luther
Next
Day.
meeting,